Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do Arrowsmith, issue number 4, Behind Enemy Lines. Gorgeous cover by Image Comics. Let's dive in because we have a lot to talk about. So we start here and we see the Baron. He asks at his subordinates, if you will, his underlings, about the situation, about the escaped prisoner. If you want to know what I'm talking about, check out my last issue. And yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and all that jazz. But the Baron says, I don't care about that. Let them die. Basically, he says he just wants to have that one person that they were looking for in the first place. The man we seek are men. If he had Confederates, are they dead? And this guy says, how can I say, Herr Baron? You give us no information how to identify him. But then one of these church members comes and he says, hey, it says you expected, Herr Baron. We have performed auguries, probably some kind of a magic incantation or something. And there are magical residues. The man you seek was here. And so he is pissed off that, that they escaped. So he summons two werewolves, and they confirm what's happening. He says, the Erdgrimmen you set beneath the camp pursued two men who fled to the woods, not the air. One of them wielded conjure arts. The Grimmen lost the trail and have been unable to require it. Says that all? Says no. The two traveled north and west. That's it all. That is all. He's not too happy about that they went, because there's a reason for that. But then he says he sends them away because he sends them on a mission to, grab them, kill them, retrieve them, find their trail, he says. As you command, Dog One. And then he get called by, I believe these two are from the Crux or the church. And the church are not fond of dragon magic or the magic that the Baron wields. They think that's an affront of God, blasphemy, stuff like that. And he said to this guy said to the Baron, "You risk your soul dealing with creatures of the pit. Far too late for that, young Uber. But the Lupa are useful, at least for now. When the old order is restored, however, power will be back in the hands of those born to wield it." And then he says, and then the Lupa and those like them will learn their proper place. Nice, cool villain. I like him. Meanwhile, Fletcher is being waked, or is that how you say? By Guy, that's his name. And Guy says, "Hey, do you have a good night?" And and he says, I trust you remember to cast an anti-disease spells you were taught in the training. Don't want any unwelcome souvenirs." Well, in the last issue, he had, intercourse with a woman, and Fletcher's not all too happy about that. He said, "You think that's funny? You enjoying your little joke, leaving me here with her without saying a word?" And Fletcher's all upset. He's a little bit too soy, in my opinion, but he's a good guy. But these are times, like I said in the last couple of issues, when men are not, like today, they are more courteous. That he said, more courtful. I don't know, not sure what the word mean. He says she says all lies, and she's been through a lot. You think it's okay to just snigger at her like that and at me? Oh, whoa, says Guys. I mean no insult. But he says that it was a good thing that he was sleeping with her, because it Erna, that's the woman's names. It makes her more compliant, and likely she stayed more silent. Keep your presence here to yourself. But he says, well, that doesn't make it any better. She's a sad, troubled, wounded girl. But to you, she's someone to manage, to use. Like you're using me, like you used the man you sent to the deaths last night. Well, that is actually true, but there's also a reason for that, because Guy says that, well, in every war there is casualties, and of course that's, something everybody says, but he says it's for a cause. I did my job. I need to do what I needed to do. He says, some of those men broke out will escape. Some of will die and some of will be recaptured. But they were soldiers. Fletcher, they are soldiers, Fletcher. They signed up to give their lives, if they must, for the nations, their cause. And but Fletcher wants to know if it's all worth it. You see, what is the mission anyway? So he gives him these what's it called, chips, and he guy does same thing. I don't know, seeing into that metal thingies. I don't know, extract information magically, and he now know what needs to happen. But Fletcher says, I want to know more. But Guy says, hey, we need to go. We need to make some speed. I dose the fire, hop to it, and then Fletcher protests again. Guy is a little bit fed up with his attitude. He says, tell me, Lieutenant Arrowsmith, I don't know how you Yanks do it, but in your training, was there a bit about following orders? And then he just does that. Well, that's true. Just, Fletcher is a little bit rebellious, but like I said, he's a good guy, but sometimes he needs to get put in his place because, well, they are soldiers. They need to follow orders. Shut up and do it. That's how it goes. Otherwise, the plan could go in, is in jeopardy, or how do you say it? Skipping a few pages, but later says Guy, hey, listen, I'm sorry if I'm being so cold and being so brusque, but it's just the mission is waiting pretty heavily on me. And so they have a talk with each other. Now, before I go further, there is no real action in this comic. This is more like what the missions is all about, how magic works, and we see more bits sprinkled through the story, moving the plot forward. Now, normally I like a lot of action in comics. I like that. But, this is more of a slow burn, and I like that too. And sometimes it works. In this case, it works, because if you are taking your time explaining instead of rushing through the story, and then you don't know what's going on, and you see a lot of plot holes, then the book is not good. But here, the creators, the Kurt Busiek, is explaining it very well what's happening. So it seems, he asked Fletcher about how magic works and what he learned in school. He says, I'm sorry, that was my computer here in front of me. He says the Allied powers are negotiating with the Lightborn for safe passage through the marches. Now, what is that exactly? It seems that he says, what do you know about the Peace of Charlemagne? He says, that's when we made a pact with the Lightborn, when magic became part of our world. Well, okay, so there's you can call it another dimension or another place or a magic world, just like in Harry Potter, you go to a different world. And there are beings there living peacefully, but then they somehow made contact with the humans. They are, releasing their magic into the world, but they are also shielded from the humans. So you cannot go through the marches without their consent. But now that they are in talk about that, because if they are managed to, get what they want, the Allied forces, he says, think about it. Through the marches, our armies could reach anywhere and nothing could stop them. Walk into the marches of London, come out in Prussia or Tyrolia, Hungary. We would simply bypass all defenses and strike at the heart of the empire itself. Fletcher says that could end the war. In days, it could save millions. But he says the Silly Court doesn't like the idea human soldiers are in their land. It's not something they ever permitted before. But they haven't said no. But then he says that the enemy kept, wind of those talks. So they kidnapped a princess. And the princess is called Liraeli, if I'm saying that correctly. And but the court doesn't know that yet. So their task is to get her back before the court of the magic world find out, because if they find out, that would piss them off, and well, there is probably another war and they lose all advantage. So it's very important that she is being returned, and that gives them leverage. Getting good grace, getting in good graces. Is that how you say it? With the court. But he also needs Fletcher, because Fletcher has connections to trolls. He knows the trolls. He's friends with them, and Guy says the trolls are on a way to find her, because their mountain troll homes exist between the worlds in the Evening Lands. That's the magical worlds, and giving them foot into each realm. The trolls don't like the central powers, but they don't much like us either. That's where you come in. So he thinks that when now Fletcher is with him, trolls, he can, communicate or sway the trolls. But Fletcher says, yeah, but I only know one troll. And he, explains the part that how he met him through family and because he worked at the farm, etc. So he asks Guy, but who are you anyway? Guy says, let me introduce myself. I am Clarence Guy Gordon Haddon, Colonel in the Royal Albionese Intelligence Corps and 7th Duke of Clare. He's also the eldest son of Albert Victor, probably all royalty, I guess. But by the grace of God, King of the Grand Dominion of Albion and the 4 Celtic nations, and of his realms beyond the seas, Emperor of Hindustian and Defender of the Faith. Wow, that's a whole lot of words with a whole lot of titles. Fletcher's shocked. He said, "You were prince?" Well, not quite. But instead of continue that conversations, they need to go further because, they need to complete the mission. They stop in between. They talk some more, and then they rest here for a bit. And Guy talks more about not only the mission but where he comes from. He says that he is a bastard, that his people there's a lot of bastards, and every bastard wants to have a claim through the throne, and they use force to do it. But, the eldest powers, probably their dads and their moms or whoever is in charge, doesn't like that and wants to kill those bastards because they are not real heirs to the throne, if you know what I mean. He says, my father thankfully didn't do that. So I handed a minor dukedom, get schooled in politics and magic, and then sent off on dangerous missions. If the family's lucky, maybe I'll die on one of them. Then why they do this? Why do they do any of this? Says Fletcher. Keeps me alive, just precariously. And it's not so bad being a royal bastard. I have few inborn advantages to come in handy. What have you thought about how magic works? And Fletcher says, not much. I only know the 12 basic spells of Airman. There wasn't time for more. He said, do you know how the magic flows and binds? Fletcher says, no. Now this is interesting. I didn't know that, and I like this very much. So he explains that magic is bound by land, by the land that you were born in, but also if you are a bastard, that means people come from different countries mostly, and you have also power from where your parents come from. For instance, magic flows from the land, the people, the plants and the animals, and it flows to those who rule, to sworn to serve. He says that the power has been shared by the dukes, by the barons, by the counts, even majors, or people like Fletcher. I was born in Hindustan and invested in power there, and as one of noble blood in the empire, and from being born in that soil, that bond was strengthened when I was young. Then I was made duke. I was bound to Clare and her people. That's from another country. And in London to Albion and the empire. From all of those places, I draw power. And with it comes a duty to serve those lands. I like that. I like that a lot. So it means, he says, it gives me roots in the heart of Prussia from 2 bloodlines. Meaning he can draw, even from that land, still have some power here because it flows through the land. It is diminished, but he still can draw from it. So Fletcher says there's different magic in different places. He said, then what is it what I have? Well, that's an interesting question because we are not going into that for now. So they stop the conversation again because they have to move on. And he said, let's go to a little bit further before we go full dark. And but then the wolves sniff their out. They are on their tail. And that leads us to the next issue. And we have more ads and ads and ads and other stuff. Yeah, very cool. Like I said, slow burn. I also like the fact, I mean, probably that's the most thing that I like about this particular issue. We all know, well, we is a big word. I mean, I always thought that when people have magic powers, you can draw it from any time, from any place, and you can do whatever you want, you know, like Dr. Fate, Dr. Strange, etc., and other magic users. But this is very interesting because it's now bound by lineage, by blood, and by land. So each land gives a different power. That's very interesting. I want to know more about that. We will see what happens in issue number 5. Is this 4? I believe this is 4. 4. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.